Sometimes the things that we love change forms. They don't end and they don't necessarily disappear, but they do become different. A child grows and no longer reaches for your hand in the same way. That's a sad day. A season of life closes on what once felt immediate, now becomes a memory. A voice that used to be right beside you, it now echoes a little differently. And the question rises quietly in our hearts, where did the time go? This is the feeling that hovers the opening chapters to the book of Acts. Jesus has been with them all through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They've been eating together, teaching together, blessing together. Jesus was alive in a way that they could touch. Resurrection was not just an idea. It was a presence. And just when things began to feel normal again, steady again, Jesus ascends. In Acts chapter 1, Jesus is lifted into the cloud of divine presence. A cloud receives him, and the disciples are left just standing there, staring at the sky. And let's be honest. I mean, this whole concept of the ascension, it feels like an awkward ending. We prefer the Easter story. We can understand that on Good Friday, Jesus dies, and that paves the way for the resurrection on Easter Sunday. But then, ascension? I mean, it feels a bit like Jesus is exiting the story just when things are getting good. It's as if the message is, he came, he loved, but then he left. That's what I hope to reauthor for you today. Jesus does physically depart, but he doesn't leave us behind. Through the gift of the Holy Spirit, the presence of Christ is no longer confined to one place, one body, or one moment. Christ is still here, but in a completely new way. It's like teaching a child to ride a bike. I like this illustration. At first, the parent is right there, hand is steady on the seat. You're running alongside the child, offering constant reassurance and constant balance when things get wobbly. The child can feel your presence, depends on your presence, and trusts that you're going to be right there. Every wobble is corrected by you who's just right there within reach. But then comes the moment where you let go. And for a few seconds, the child doesn't even realize it. They're still riding as if your hand is right there, steady, moving forward, finding their rhythm. And when they finally look back and you're 30 feet back behind them, there's this sudden jolt of awareness. You're not holding on anymore. And it can feel for a moment like something has been lost. But what the child then begins to discover, sometimes it comes with a little fear, sometimes with a burst of joy, is that the presence they depended on, it hasn't disappeared, but it has changed forms. It's moved from being right beside them to now being within them. Balance is now within their own body. They don't need you to help them balance. They figured it out from within. Confidence begins to rise from somewhere within. The guidance that they once received externally from you, they're now doing it internally from within. Now, you didn't, as the parent, abandon the child. You trusted them into a new kind of presence. And then soon, the child isn't looking back for you anymore. They're just riding forward, carrying that presence within them, discovering that with every turn of the wheel and every stretch of the road is wide open and for them to discover. This is a lot like what is happening in Acts chapter 1. The disciples have lost the external presence of Jesus, and they're now having to learn to live his life with his spirit, his presence, no longer next to them, but now within them. And soon, they're going to start seeing Jesus' presence everywhere. This is why I think the Ascension and the story of the Ascension matters. It tells us that the story of Jesus is not confined to the pages of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's not locked in the past. The risen Christ reigns, and that reign looks like love moving outward through you, through us. And we're finally learning to ride forward, knowing that Christ's presence and confidence and trust and love is within us. I think this is the deeper message bound up in this story. And honestly, it's pretty amazing. The Ascension is not supposed to be read as if Jesus is just leaving the world behind. It's Jesus filling the world, but in a new way. Another way to think of it is recognizing the wind. We cannot see the wind directly. We can't point to it and say that's the wind, but we can learn to notice what it does. Wind causes the trees to bend, the leaves to shimmer. Wind is what we feel moving across our skin. And after a while, we stop needing to see the wind itself because we trust that its presence, by the way it stirs the world around us, is right there. The Ascension is saying the same thing. The risen Christ is no longer confined to one place, one body, at one moment, in a physical sense. And that can feel a bit like loss, like something has just slipped out of reach. It's left out of our purview. But over time, our eyes do begin to adjust. We begin to see Christ in the movement of compassion that rises up in us when we didn't expect it. We begin to see Christ in the courage that we show when fear would have been a lot easier. We see Christ in the quiet pull towards forgiveness and mercy and love, not because we manufactured those things, but because someone is moving within us. And slowly, almost without even realizing it, we stop asking the question of where did Jesus go? And we begin to recognize he's still here, filling this moment and this life in our world, but in a new way. It's interesting what the angels say in verse 11 to the disciples who were just standing there. The disciples are utterly frozen. They're gazing upward. And the angels say, "Why do you stand looking up toward heaven?" It's a gentle question. It may be a playful one, depending on how you read it. Why are you searching for Jesus in one direction when he's no longer bound or contained by direction at all? Because that's the shift the Ascension makes, and it's a theological shift and a big one. Before this moment, Jesus was with us in the sense that he was localized. He was embodied. He was present at one place at one time. And you could go to that one place at that one time to meet Jesus. But now, after Acts chapter 1, Christ is no less present, but Christ is differently present. Christ is no longer bound to a single body at one time, localized, but is alive within the entire body of creation. No longer beside us, but now within us. A lot like the wind. We're calling this sermon series High and Holy because we're entering into these seasons and these days in which we celebrate these high and holy Christian moments, these theological moments, but also these moments in the calendar, and that we just recognize that they're incredibly important. The Ascension, Pentecost, and the Trinity. These are three great mysteries of the Christian faith, and they just so happen to arrive 3 weeks in a row. But I want to be careful and not suggest that the word high, as in high and holy, means far away, distant. I don't like to imagine heaven being up there or out there or somewhere beyond the clouds, beyond our reach. I like to hear these words through the language of faith. In this sense, high doesn't mean distant. It means deeply true, ultimate, foundational. It means that which holds it all together. In this sense, to say Christ is lifted up is not to say Christ has gone away. It's to say Christ is now woven into the very fabric of reality. The one who walked the dusty roads of Galilee in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John now fills all things. The one who broke bread at tables now holds all the tables. The one who breathed peace into frightened disciples now breathes into all of creation. And that changes how we live our lives today. Because the Ascension is a lot like coronation. And we're not waiting for Christ to become Lord someday. We're learning to live as Christ is Lord now, right now, in this moment, in every day of our lives moving forward. And it's here, this scene in Acts 1, it's here that it becomes very personal for us. Because of Acts chapter 1, the disciples don't just receive a theological explanation, and neither do we. We also receive a calling, and it's in verse 8. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses. This is our calling. In Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. The disciples are not called to be spectators or sky gazers. They're called to be witnesses, and we are too. That's the role of a Christian and the church. The Ascension redirects the disciples' attention from there to right here. Not out there, but right here. From speculation of the future to participation in the present. From wondering where Jesus went to embodying where Jesus is. I do think there's a real temptation in the spiritual life to always be looking outward, upward, to search for God in the abstract, the unknown, the safely untouchable. And to be fair, I do it. We all do it. We all stand with our toes in the sand and we look out at the ocean and we just embrace the mystery and the majesty of it all. We can't put it all in our heads all the time. There's something that lies beyond. But much of faith does involve us standing at the edge of mystery, standing outward, wondering, hoping. But I think the Ascension interrupts that rhythm gently. And it says, if you want to find Christ, you don't always have to look above you. You don't always have to look beyond you. You can look among you, within you. You can look in the places where love is practiced. You can look in the places where justice is pursued. You can look in the places where mercy takes on flesh. After Jim Everett retired, our longtime associate pastor, back in September, one of the things that he did religiously was he would write cards. I'm thinking of you cards, I'm praying for you cards to people on the anniversary of the death of a loved one. And he would do it for 5 years after the death of a loved one. It's honestly, I've begun to take on that role now, and it's honestly one of the most important moments of my week. I hold each family in prayer, and I think about the lost relationship and the feelings that they must be carrying today. And I'm at the point now where I've been in Wilmington long enough where for about half of you, I was here for that loss in your life. For others, I recognize that some of you have been carrying this pain since I even knew you. Regardless, every week I write another letter. And every week I think about how there are just moments in life when someone we love is no longer physically present in the way that they were. But somehow, their presence hasn't diminished. Rather, it expands. I deeply believe that we can still hear the voice of our lost loves. It's not audible, but we hear it from within. We can feel their influence from within because the love they gave us, it now lives through us. It's not less real. It's integrated. It's diffused. It's alive, but in a different way and not the one you would expect. That's what's happening in Acts chapter 1. The disciples have not lost Jesus. They're about to discover him everywhere. And I think the power of this moment demands for us to ask a few questions of ourselves. Where is Christ becoming visible through my life? Where is love taking on flesh in my decisions? Where is grace being extended through my relationships? Where is justice being pursued through my courage? I think because the Ascension is not an invitation to stand still and stare, I think it's an invitation for us to move, to become, to witness, knowing Christ is still with us, not in the old way, but in a new one, a high and holy way. It's not distant, it's not absent, it's right here, breathing through creation like the wind, moving among us and within us, even today.